Greetings and salutations from the southern tropics of Michigan. I'm Jordan the IT guy, and today let's chat a little bit about lists. Now, I don't mean lists like a grocery store list. No, I'm referring to lists as in a particular type of .NET object. Now, PowerShell as a whole is all based on .NET. .NET-oriented language, it's what it is. So if you happen to know a little bit of things about .NET, C#, or any of the other languages that are based on .NET, you will have an advantage when it comes to dealing with certain things in PowerShell. In this particular case, it has to do with the world of lists. Now, lists are something that you might consider using in a scenario where an array or a series of objects of fixed length is not appropriate for your usage in code. And in that case, you might want to use, as mentioned, lists. I'm going to talk about two different types of lists today and some of their pros and cons. Let's go ahead and jump into it. The first list that I want to talk to you today about is the generic list. A generic list is extremely useful in a wide variety of scenarios. Now, in order to create a list, there are a few different ways. If you're feeling particularly sassy, you could just flat out use .NET to construct it in its entirety. Now, I'm not going to do that because for anybody who's following along on this channel, my goal is to teach people more of a PowerShell-oriented language, and also it's a little bit easier to understand than to just jump straight into how .NET constructors work. To that end, we're going to use a commandlet in PowerShell that's called new object. Just like this. We're then going to give that object what is called a type name. Now, we can put in type name if we want here, or we can just put in the type information for it. Now, you could, of course, do something like, hey, put in a string, right? Or something weird like that. But in this case, we're doing this because we want an advanced type. And the advanced type that we want is from system.collections.generic.list. Now, there's one other piece that we have to provide here, and that is the type of list that we want. In this case, I want a list that is going to contain strings. I'm going to put square brackets and string. Now, I could have just as easily have done PS object or any other type of object that we've previously covered. But for this, I want a simple string. What's important to know about this is that this type information here has to do with what's called namespaces in .NET. We're going to use something from the system namespace, from the collections, generic, list, and each of these are sections within the namespace, and all of them have their own types of things in them. Now, I need to store this object or create this object and basically assign it to a variable. So if I just put in front of this list equals new object and run this command, we now have a list object. And if I just do a simple list.getType and hit enter, we could see it is a name of list, and then it is a base type of system object. Now, we can continue down this rabbit hole a little further because this is kind of interesting. If we do list, and if you remember earlier when we said list and when we did arrays, we did list pipe get member to look at the different methods that are attached to it. Now, for this particular one, it's going to yell at us, and that's okay. What we can do instead is if we do period, and then if we do control space, we'll activate PS readline to show us all of the members that are available to it. In here, we'll see that we again have the option to add something to it, and we have the ability to remove something from it. Now, in this case, this list is not of fixed size, and so I can add something like hello and hit enter, and if I now run list, it contains hello. I can add, of course, something else to it if I'd like to. Maybe I want to add world. So now I have list, which produces hello world. What if I want to remove the word hello? Well, if I do list, remove, hello, and hit enter, I can then do list, and we'll see that now only contains world. Now, this is very different than our array format and is great if we need to expand or remove something from a list of objects or a sequence of objects. Maybe we're using it as a task list for when things are done or various other things. Now, I'm going to talk about one other type of list, also known as the bad list, using big air quotes there. And the reason I call this the bad list is because this type of object is technically considered deprecated, but you will still see it extremely commonly in code. And that looks like this. New object again. And we'll just specify that we want it to have a type name. I could type, that would be helpful. And it's again going to be system.collections.ArrayList. Now, this is much shorter, and if I just run this, we'll again see that I now have an object of ArrayList. And if I run a get type, we'll see it's an ArrayList. Can I add things to this? Of course I can. But you'll notice that when I added something to it, I got this little output here of 0, indicating that something was added. And if I go over here and I say, let's do this, you'll notice that it again kicks out that something was added. In fact, it's kicking out the position that an object was added to the array list. This then means that this output here, because of how this comes back to the screen, can actually accidentally get caught in things and can cause problems or challenges in scripting and coding. So you have to handle this output in some way, shape, or form. You'll see people commonly do something like this, where they'll do like an out null to escape that value. Here you can see that I added it again, but I didn't get anything over here. And if I now was to type array list, I would get hello world world. This is deprecated, and while it will still work and it accepts genericized objects without you having to specify a type, such as what I did over here, I would avoid using this and instead try to focus more on using strongly typed lists if you're going to use them. I hope this has been informative, and as always, thanks for watching. I look forward to talking to you next time.